And we're back.
And it's been a while.
It has been a while. One of them was, admittedly, I forgot it was Wednesday.
I've actually been quite busy with ICMI for a few weeks, and I have to admit, I've been fine with us having a few weeks break, just so I can catch up on stuff.
But we've had a few weeks break. Just like we'll come back for one episode and just oops.
Yeah, exactly. It's been the last few months.
Yeah.
That's all right.
And admittedly, it is due to the time of year with work and everything. So I'm sure everybody can understand.
That's
So
right.
we're gonna do this live. My computer's playing up, so we're not doing the pre-recorded ones for until I sort this out. So we're just gonna go live. Still gonna be around the 15-minute mark. Lost count of how many times we've done this. So welcome back.
Yes, thank you, and you too.
So we're gonna talk about a couple of different things tonight because I've been incognito or MIA, whichever one you want to use, for the last couple of weeks. We are going to talk about Lauren Sutherland, but I don't know what's happened. So I'm going to be learning at the same time our audience is. So if and when I have a shocked face, we know it's genuine.
That's right.
I love Lauren, and we're also going to touch base on men's clubs or gentlemen's clubs. Sorry.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm interested in Lauren.
Okay, so I want to start with Lauren. So
start with Lauren.
Right. So for those who don't know, Lauren Southern started out some years ago. I think she was about 21 at the time. She was standing. I think the first time she was ever sort of really noticed. She was standing on the court on the steps of a building, holding a sign, all on her own, basically raising an anti-feminist position against a feminist protest.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, very gutsy. That was. And anyway, so Lauren has been doing various things. She actually did some other stuff. Went to South Africa, talked about the farmers there, the white farmers, a couple of years ago. She's done a documentary, I believe. She stepped out of public life. Now, Lauren is originally from Canada, but she's actually been living in Australia, in Sydney. I don't think there's any I think it's quite widely known that she's been living in Sydney for a number of years, for about 2 or 3 years. Married an Australian gentleman. Anyway, so she retired from public life in 2019, but in 2020 re-emerged. So anyway, that's sort of background. But yes, recently she's basically said that the manosphere is pretty despicable, pretty awful. In and out, I think was the term. So I'll read the comment. Can't stand most of the manosphere. Why? Because I gave them the benefit of the doubt and got to know the community, and it's rotten inside and out. Get out while you can. Save yourselves, young men. Criticizing feminism is perfectly fine. You can do that without hating women. So the term manosphere has caused a bit of confusion because it's actually a surprising number of people haven't actually heard that term. But anyway, basically the manosphere is a very, very broad term that refers to all sorts of different groups. It refers to men's rights activists and MGTOW and PUA. Now, one of the defining characteristics of the manosphere actually is the different groups within it don't really agree with each other. They all agree on the issues, okay, to a large degree, but they very much disagree on what should be done about those issues. So we're saying let's try to address these issues socially, move the Overton window and get society to recognise the problem. And a lot of MGTOW are saying, you know what, can't be fixed. I'm out of here. I'm just going to step aside and live the best life I can while Rome burns. And you've got PUA, who some of them are actually saying, yep, we agree there are issues and we're going to have as much sex as possible while sort of the West is sinking. So there's a lot of agreement. I said, not everybody, but a lot of people will agree on the issues, but very much disagree on what to do about it, and or if anything should be done about it. And the problem is, this is such a broad group of people. There's not much you can say about it that is all encompassing, except for the fact that there's a lot of disagreement within it. And Lauren has come out, and I fully believe that she absolutely understands the correct use of the term. And what's kind of unfortunate about it, I think, is that Lauren has had exposure to the different groups. including groups like ours. Now, I haven't personally met Lauren or spoken to her, but not long after this happened, Sydney Watson and Daisy Cousins both came out and basically said, yep, absolutely, we fully endorse your position. Now, I've met both of them. Daisy Cousins was at ICMI 17. Sydney Watson ran an event. There were other people involved in running that event as well, but she was one of the sort of the front people dealing with the media and so forth, and dealing with the public. And I spoke at that event, and so I had an opportunity to meet Sydney, and she got to know me a little bit. So I was personally disappointed to see that happen. But anyway, there it is. And so I think perhaps to a certain extent, it seems like it might be a little bit of a turning point, actually, because there have been a lot of cases where we in the men's rights movement have, if you like, allied ourselves with other groups that we didn't necessarily agree with everything they said. They didn't necessarily agree with everything we said. But there was common cause, and that's certainly been my attitude for many years, the position I've taken for many years. And many of us actually thought something like this was actually coming, and here it is, and they've thrown us under the bus, really, in all honesty. So I think we've probably reached a turning point. I don't think we'll be I don't think we'll be engaging with these other groups as much in the future, actually. And there it is.
Wow, it actually is really sad, because I did like Lauren. I thought her messages that she wanted to get across were actually very powerful, and it's always been my belief to try and get the information out there. It might come better from a woman, because those feminists and those extreme left wing might actually listen to what they perceive as a minority.
And that's certainly a position that Bettina Art has expressed too. I probably have mixed feelings about it, whether I'm not as convinced it will be much more successful, but I'm certainly willing to try.
Yeah. Oh, and try anything at this point.
Exactly.
I just think Lauren came from it from the right angle. I've seen other women try and do it, and they come at it from a patronizing angle, in my opinion. Could be 100% wrong. I've just found it's like mansplaining when they're trying to explain what they're doing, and I do find it a bit patronizing. And I won't name names, but
you mean it comes across that way? You think it comes across that way? Yeah. Your video's frozen too, Nat, but oh no, you're back. That's good.
Okay. But it is sad to lose Lauren, but I hope they're not jumping what they think is a sinking ship.
Well, I wouldn't characterize that movement as a sinking ship. If anything, it's getting more and more popular, and there are a lot more people supporting what we're doing and saying.
That's fantastic. I myself don't affiliate myself with any particular men's groups. I think I'm one on my own, where I'm trying to bring up men's issues. Just like I would on the flip side, I do. There's sometimes where I get spoken down to by men, and it's like, oh, you're the stereotypical that everybody's whinging about. You are that male chauvinist pig. As the guys I've met through you and let's say our group, have been nothing but gentlemen. We've clashed, we've had our debates, but I've never been spoken down to.
I'd say we all try to treat each other as equals.
Yeah, and even as equals, we're all going to clash. We're all going to see things differently.
Have disagreements, and
Yeah.
and there's a lot of tolerance for alternative viewpoints as well. You may not agree with what I said; it doesn't matter. You may not agree with what other people in our group say. That's fine. We can tolerate alternative viewpoints. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But there has been on a couple of occasions where again, nobody in our group, actually nobody to do with anything we do, although they think they are. Where I was so patronized, I was told I was nuts. I was told to go and see a psychiatrist. I was told I should have been locked up in a loony bin, all because of my opinion on a specific topic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and it's like you're seriously, you were trying to talk down to a woman, and you're doing exactly how these extreme feminists portray all men, and you're doing it to somebody who's on your side. Don't do that, because I will out you. And I outed him and got a 30-day Facebook ban.
Okay.
But that's the way it was. It was, it does happen. But this is why I'm not affiliated with any specific men's rights groups. I just think we've got to get out the message of the men's issues that men face today, that people just keep on sweeping under the rug.
Well, I've adopted the idea for a long time that it's a multi-pronged approach, and there'll probably continue to be individuals and small groups operating. Some people talk about sort of unifying groups and all this sort of thing, and it's been tried, hasn't really worked. I think we're going to continue operating as small groups focused on issues, and the groups get together and work on things like ICMI, for example, when it makes sense to do so.
And I'm happy to be part of that. I am so happy to be part of that. I'm proud and honored that I am going to be associated with that, because, and happy anniversary, by the way, because it's 3 years ago today that we met, because it was
really?
The March for Men was 3 years ago today.
That's right.
So happy anniversary, dear. Here's your flower.
That's great. Wonderful. We knew each other online before that. We met in person. Yeah.
But what I did find funny 3 years ago today was the fact that so many people recognize me. Like, not just the people I knew that were going to be there, but other people coming up and going, "Hey, you're Natalie. I know who you are."
Yeah, people remember. Yeah.
And I thought that was so amazing that people did know who I am, and people are appreciative of what we're doing. Even this small thing, even if this only gets 2 views, it doesn't matter whether it gets 2 views or 100 views, people are still listening. And I have to go on mute for a second, so you just chat amongst yourselves.
I think it's a passing train. Yes. So anyway, getting back to what happened. This is unfortunately, just as we said, something that we thought was probably coming. There are a lot of people don't realise anti-feminism is absolutely huge, and there are lots of different anti-feminist groups that don't agree with each other on various issues. There's people in men's rights, in and around men's rights, and most of us, not all of us, reject traditionalism, for all large parts of traditionalism, because of the effect that it's had on men, where traditionalism may have made the man the head of the family. It also expected him to go off and die in war.
Yeah.
And but there are others within the broader anti-feminist movement that are quite traditionalist. And I think as feminism is starting to fall, we're starting to see these sort of different groups emerge and be more distinct. So I think this is something of a turning point.
Yeah, and I hope it comes off as a good turning point.
I think so. I do. I think so. As I said, I've always been willing to work with groups, even though I knew they were much more traditionalist than me, and there are others in our movement who weren't as sure, but I think it made sense up to this point. But I think it's time for us to forge ahead. But we are heading up around about 15 minutes. So do we want to talk about gentlemen's clubs?
Yeah, and I'll only do about this really quickly. I found out I don't know the name of this particular club or this nightclub. It's in Melbourne, in the CBD, I believe, where it's a gay nightclub for men only. They have a special license to turn away women. I fully support it. I think they should have their own area to be who they are.
So as I've said in the past, my view on single-sex organisations is both or neither. If society decides that there should be single-sex organisations, that's whether it's gyms or clubs or whatever, that's fine, as long as both genders can have that opportunity. Or if society decides that they aren't allowed, then it has to be the same for both. That's my view.
And I'm glad you brought that point up. So, my understanding, and I could be wrong because I've never been in one, is this club's fine. This club is great. Everybody supports it. Everybody supports what they, it's for men only, for these gay men to be gay men and do whatever they want to do in this club. That's fine. I don't know what goes on in there. I don't particularly want to know. But saying that, with gentlemen's clubs, or cigar clubs, however you want to label it, that the feminists are against these types of clubs. And it's like, what's the difference?
Did you know that there are women's clubs, ladies' clubs, just like the gentlemen's clubs? And in some cases, they're even more exclusive.
Then what's the difference?
Yes, okay, so, well, feminists are against one and they love the other. They're okay with the other. So I'll give you the Queensland example. There's a club, very famous club called Tattersalls in Brisbane. It was a men's-only club until a couple of years ago when the membership held a vote and allowed women. Now, Tattersalls Club was often criticised as being a men-only club prior to that point. There's a ladies-only club called the Moreton Club here in Brisbane as well, and it's even more exclusive than Tattersalls. And there's never been any attempt to force the club to accept male members. So there is very much a double standard. Like, we should be surprised. Most men's clubs are being forced to accept women, while the women's clubs very quietly go on their way. So if you look on Wiki for Men, there's a page on the Moreton Club there. Otherwise, you can look at their own website. It's pretty clear. It's quite an exclusive club, women only.
And that's great. I support that. I support this gay club that only allows gay men. I support that. I support a lesbian club that only allows female lesbians. I support all of that.
I agree. It's the double standard I have a problem.
It's this one other club that's not allowed, and it's like, why?
Yeah.
I understand. Many years ago, it was frowned upon, and women were always trying to get in, and like, why aren't we allowed in? I get that. It's not the way it is anymore.
And these women's clubs existed during that time as well, and they would argue that a lot of business was exchanged, and a lot of business went on in the men's clubs. But I guess I'd have a couple of comments to do that. Firstly, today, that's probably not really that true. And secondly, I think it would be a mistake to assume that women in high society weren't well connected. And I have no doubt that in the women's clubs, while they may not have been the business leaders or the politicians 50 or 100 years ago, they were married to the business leaders and the politicians, and they would absolutely be opening doors to their husbands, and they would be making connections. That's how society works.
Yeah. Well, that was just I don't like the double standards of things. If they've got female clubs, great. If they've got gay men only clubs, great. If they've got female only gyms, great. But why can't we have male only gyms?
Because that's sexist.
And we're not allowed to have gentlemen's clubs. We're allowed all these other little pockets, but for straight men won't even colorize you, so it's not straight white men, just straight men aren't allowed to go off and enjoy a scotch and a cigar.
Well, in fact, even men's sheds many of them have been forced to go to admit women now. So, and the men's sheds were places where men went away and talked to each other in that environment.
But wasn't men's sheds made up for men to get together for mental health? It was like
that was always part of it. Yes, exactly. The idea was they go along, they build stuff, they talk while they're building stuff. The men really do tend to have this tendency to sort of need to do. So they go, they do something, they're there, and they do talk about issues. Exactly. That's right.
And no
Many
offense,
of
if I'm off doing a crafting, shed, I'm a big crafter, so I'm not knocking it.
Yeah.
I'm a big crafter. But it's women only, and I talk about childbirth or my boobs hurt this week or whatever. No offense, I don't want a guy around.
That's right. And actually, you make a good point, actually, because there are things like crochet circles and so forth. There are places women go and do activities and talk. You're right. And I guess those are somewhat analogous to the men's sheds. And you really don't see men moving into those spaces, but women have now moved into the men's sheds in many cases.
Just doesn't make sense. Anyway,
so
we'll wrap it up. It's only me, it's only me having a bitch, but it was when it was brought up to me about this gay club, I was like, okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, and the fact that we've encroached on men's sheds, which is to help men with their mental health issues, is just like, you just, that I got no words.
The bottom line is, in Western civilization, women get single gender spaces and men don't. And I have on Wiki for Men a really extensive list of women's only organizations all around the world. Buses, train carriages. By the way, so countries like India where they have single sex carriages, they have women's only carriages and mixed carriages. There are no men's carriages. There are women only police stations. There are hotel floors. The hotel industry is predicting women only hotels within the near future. There are women only restaurants. All these things are documented around the world. And examples of male only and men only spaces that are equivalent are very, very rare. There are one or two around the world, but not many at all. I know of a couple in the Middle East and Greece where there are places, organisations basically run by monks where they only allow men, but they're the only ones that I've really come across.
I understand. I just quickly want to touch on this before we go. We're talking about the train carriage. Now, we discussed having it in Australia and they're going to paint it pink or something where only women would sit in this carriage. Now, if I'm a person who's going to, forget my gender, if I'm a person that's going to do something bad, I don't give a shit what color the carriage is or it's a woman's only carriage. I'm not going to suddenly get there and go, I'm going to commit a crime tonight, but I can't go into that carriage because I've got a ding-a-ling and it's a woman's only carriage.
That's right. So, yeah, committing a crime is fine, but stepping into that carriage, I can't do it.
I can't do it. It's not going to stop somebody who's going to commit a crime.
That's right.
So, yeah.
Queensland has sent a delegation to, I think it was Argentina, to look at women-only police stations. So we may yet see them here.
I don't think we should have women-only police stations for certain situations. I think there should be a women's department in a police station.
Which they already do accommodate that sort of thing.
Right. Support that. I just don't think it's sending the wrong message by not having men in there. It's going, you're 100% right. All men suck and all men are going to attack you. Rather than bringing them into a place where there is men, going into this women's only section and going, see those guys out there? they have my back.
Yep, men are far more likely to help and protect a woman than ever hurt a woman. That's the reality of it. Men will, to a large degree, go out. In fact, they'll do it for other men too if the man's threatened, but they're far more likely to do it for a woman, to risk their own safety, to rescue her. And for every man who would hurt a woman, there are hundreds of men who would stop him and would risk their own safety to protect a woman. Yeah,
because men go
hundreds
to the
of thousands.
rescue.
Yeah. So.
And you see that you see the men running towards the fire, and you see the woman, and it's instinctive. It's not a degrading thing. Men run towards the fire. The woman protects the ones that say there's like.
You'd be far more likely to see a woman if there were children who had come out of the fire or something, taking the children and keeping them safe. Yeah,
exactly. She would protect them. That's what she does. That's what we do as women. It's instinctive.
Right. That's
There's
right.
the odd men or women that won't do that, but instinctively, women will protect what they can. Men will rescue what they can.
Going back about 20 years here in Brisbane, we had an honest-to-God serial rapist in the city. Now, serial rapists are actually very rare, despite the fact that they appear on TV quite a lot. But this was an honest-to-God serial rapist in the city, and he raped about 5 or 6 women. And there was a woman who was running along at 5 or 6 a.m. in the morning one morning, and the rapist appeared and attacked her. And it was 2 workmen nearby who rushed over, grabbed him and detained him. And that's how they caught him. So in that case, yet again, it was 2 men on a building site minding their own business who jumped in and detained the rapist, and he was caught and prosecuted. Yep.
Well, we're still missing the big picture here that there's a handful of bad dudes and bad gals. Majority of people are actually good, even if we disagree on something.
That's right. The majority of people would rather not hurt anybody else if they can possibly avoid it.
There's a couple of people I wouldn't mind spurt slapping, but that's between you and me.
Yeah. Well, we've gone on nearly half an hour.
We went over. Yeah. See, we just haven't talked for a while, so we're just like blah, 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 blah.
That's right. Thanks, Nat. We're back.
All good. We're going to do it live again next week until I sort this out. But in the meantime, have a great week and happy anniversary again.
Yes, great. That's great. Thanks for telling me. I didn't know. Brilliant.
No, I only just clicked to me before when we were talking about it. It was like, that event that he's talking about, that happened 3 years ago today. It came up on my Facebook.
Wow. Crazy. Thanks, Nat.
All good.
Talk to you next week.
Take care of yourself, and I'll talk to you next week.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Bye.